Brixton is often described as vibrant, but that word is too easy because behind the colour, the food, the music, the markets and the street energy is something much deeper. This is a place shaped by arrival, by struggle, by Caribbean memory, by Black British identity, by music, resistance, business, family and survival. And today, Brixton is also shaped by one uncomfortable question. What happens when the culture that helped a place survive becomes the same culture that makes it fashionable? This is not just a walk through one of London's most famous neighbourhoods. This is a search for what Brixton remembers. The first thing you feel when you arrive in Brixton is movement. People coming out of the station, buses pulling in, shops opening, music somewhere in the background, the street already alive before you fully understand it. Some neighbourhoods introduce themselves quietly. Brixton does not. It arrives as rhythm, and that rhythm matters. Because Brixton is not a place you understand only by looking at buildings. You understand it by watching how people move through it, how they greet each other, how they buy food, how they stand in doorways, how they gather, sell, speak, wait and claim space. From the first few steps, Brixton feels like more than a location. It feels like a living argument about belonging. How long have you lived in Brixton?
No, I don't live in Brixton.
Oh, you don't?
I trade in Brixton.
Okay. I mean, since you've been here, how much has it changed? Has it changed that much?
It has changed a lot from the time. Brixton is not the Brixton it used to be. A lot has changed. And, there's another things going on as well. Where they try to, the big money maker developers, they want to buy out the markets and so.
Oh wow. Electric Avenue is one of the best places to begin reading Brixton. Not because it is polished, because it is practical. Markets are where culture becomes useful. This is where memory turns into ingredients. A parent buying what they grew up eating. A grandmother choosing the right pepper. A trader knowing what a customer wants before the sentence is finished. A recipe carried from one island, one country, one family kitchen into a London street. That is what people often miss about markets. They are not just places of commerce. They are places of continuity. A market like this tells you what people refuse to forget, what they still cook, what they still recognize, what they still pass on. In Brixton, food is never just food. It is a route back to somewhere. And this is why the market matters. Because when people move, culture does not move as an idea. It moves as taste, as language, as habit, as routine, as the ingredients that make a new place feel slightly more like home. What do people misunderstand about Brixton? Is there anything they misunderstand?
Well, people come to Brixton and say, oh, Brixton is it is busy. Because you know that in Brixton you have a lot of people doing truck and trucks. Whereas before, that is all of these places. But since they gentrify the place, and
But Brixton also carries a tension. You feel it especially in places like Brixton Village and Market Row. Here, old market architecture meets newer restaurants, cafes, and lifestyle spaces. The result is exciting, but also complicated, because this is the question every culturally powerful neighborhood eventually faces. What happens when the culture that helped people survive becomes attractive to people with more money? What happens when the food, the music, the color, the energy, and the authenticity become part of the area's value? And what happens to the people who created that value? This is not a simple story of old versus new. Cities have to change. Markets have to evolve. Businesses have to adapt. But the deeper question remains: can a place become more popular without losing the people who made it meaningful? That is why Brixton feels so important now. It is not only a neighborhood, it is a warning and a possibility at the same time.
It's up to us young people to come back, start doing business here,
Yeah.
and run back and say, what is this?
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Starting from me,
Mm-hmm.
other people.
People, yeah, I can see. Yeah. Walk deeper into Brixton Market and the neighborhood becomes more layered. You see Africa, you see the Caribbean, you see South Asia, you see Latin America, you see London absorbing all of it, arguing with all of it, becoming something new because of it. This is why Brixton matters. It shows that migration is not only a political story, it is an everyday story. It is the story of what people carry when they leave home, not just suitcases, but taste, language, music, faith, ways of greeting, ways of dressing, ways of making a living, ways of surviving disappointment. Over time, those small things reshape a city. One shop at a time, one meal at a time, one market stall at a time. Brixton is not multicultural because someone wrote that word on a poster. Brixton is multicultural because people built lives here. Then you come to Windrush Square, and the pace changes. This is where Brixton becomes more than street energy. It becomes memory. The name Windrush carries the story of arrival. People who came to Britain from the Caribbean. People who walked, built, raised children, opened businesses, faced racism, made homes, and changed the country permanently. But memory is never automatic. A city does not remember fairly unless people fight for the memory to remain visible. That is why a square matters. That is why names matter. That is why public space matters. Because when a community is written into the map, it becomes harder to pretend it was never here. Windrush Square tells you that Brixton is not just a neighborhood, it is part of Britain's unfinished conversation with itself. Beside the square is one of Brixton's most important cultural anchors, the Black Cultural Archives. And the idea behind a place like this is powerful, because every society has archives, but not everyone's story is preserved with the same care. Some histories are celebrated, some are neglected, some are distorted. Some survive only in families, churches, barbershops, kitchens, record shops, and elders. So when a community builds an archive, it is doing more than collecting documents. It is making a claim. It is saying, we were here, we shaped this country. Our stories matter. Our memory deserves a home. That is the deeper lesson of Brixton. Culture does not survive only because people celebrate it. It survives because people protect it. Then there are the murals, and of course, the David Bowie mural. It reminds you that Brixton does not belong to one story. That is part of its power. It holds Caribbean memory, Black British struggle, music history, pop culture, markets, migrant entrepreneurship, political resistance, new cafes, old shops, generational change, all in the same streets. The mistake is to reduce Brixton to one thing: only vibrant, only rough, only cool, only black, only trendy, only changing. Brixton is all of those things in tension, and that tension is what makes it alive. So, what does Brixton teach? It teaches that culture is not just what people celebrate. It is what people survive. It is what they cook when they miss home, what they sing when they need strength, what they sell to build a future, what they archive so they are not forgotten, what they paint on walls when the official story feels incomplete. Brixton matters now because it shows what happens when memory becomes valuable. And when memory becomes valuable, the question becomes urgent. Who gets to stay inside the story? Who gets priced out of it? Who gets remembered? Who gets reduced to atmosphere? Who gets to decide what the place becomes next? That is why Brixton is more than vibrant. Vibrant is only the surface. Underneath it is arrival, resistance, creativity, pride, commerce, music, food, faith, change, and belonging. Brixton is not just a place, it is a memory system, a neighborhood that refuses to forget.